The night Sheikh Hamdan's marriage fell apart forever, there was a night, a specific night, a night that started like any other night inside those palace walls and ended with something broken that could never be put back together. Nobody announced it. Nobody reported it. The world went to sleep that night, not knowing that something had shifted permanently inside one of the most powerful royal families in the Middle East. But it had, and everything that came after, every quiet departure, every poem drenched in sadness, every public appearance where Hamdan's eyes told a story his mouth was not allowed to tell. Everything traces back to that night. The night Sheikh Hamdan's marriage fell apart forever. Most people who follow Sheikh Hamdan Fazza follow the version of him that is allowed to be seen. The adventurer, the poet, the crown prince of Dubai, who skydives and rides horses and posts photographs that make the entire world stop and stare. That version of Hamdan is real, but it is not complete. It never has been. Because behind every public image that gets shared and celebrated and admired, there is a private life that looks almost nothing like the highlight reel. And inside that private life, there was a marriage that was struggling from the very first day. Not because two people were bad for each other, but because one of them had never been free to arrive fully in the first place. Hamdan went into his marriage to Sheikha bint Said Al Thani, carrying something he could not put down, a love that predated everything, a love that had existed long before his father decided the time had come for a royal alliance, long before June 2019, long before any of the official announcements and celebrations that surrounded the wedding. He had loved someone else first, deeply, honestly, in the way a person loves when they are not yet aware of all the things the world is going to ask them to give up. And that love did not disappear when the marriage began. It went underground. It hid. It lived in the poems he kept writing, even after he had stood before his family and made his vows. Shikha was not naive. She was a woman of intelligence and dignity, and she could feel from the beginning that something was missing. Not missing in the sense of being forgotten or overlooked, missing in the sense of never having been there in the first place. Her husband was present. He was respectful. He fulfilled the role expected of him. But there was a door inside him that remained closed. A part of him she could sense but could never reach. And living beside someone whose heart is locked away from you, even inside a palace, even surrounded by every luxury imaginable, is one of the loneliest experiences a person can have. She tried, for longer than most people know. She was patient in a way that deserved more than what she received. But patience has a limit, and the limit came on a night when something crossed her path that she was never meant to find. A message, a photograph, a poem with a name attached that explained everything she had been feeling without being able to name. Whatever it was, and the exact details remain inside the walls of that palace, it was enough. It was more than enough. In a single moment, the vague shape of her suspicions became something concrete and undeniable. Her husband's heart had never been in this marriage because it had always been somewhere else, with someone else, with a woman who had existed in Hamdan's life long before Sheikha ever entered the picture. That was night the marriage fell apart forever, not with raised voices, not with a dramatic confrontation that the staff of the palace would talk about for years, with something quieter than that, with this specific, devastating silence that falls between two people when the truth has finally arrived, and there is nothing left to say that will change it. Sheikha understood in that moment that she was not losing her husband to someone new. She had never fully had him to begin with, and that particular realization does not produce anger as much as it produces a grief that is almost impossible to describe. A grief for something you believed in, that turned out to have been incomplete from the very start. Hamdan, for his part, did not pretend. That is one thing that people who know him well always say about him. He does not perform emotions he does not have. He does not say things he does not mean. When the truth was out, he did not construct explanations or offer promises that he knew he could not keep. He was honest in the only way available to him in that moment, with silence and eventually with letting her go. Not because he was cruel, but because the kindest thing he could do for a woman who deserved real love was to stop asking her to accept something that was never going to become what she needed it to be. The days after that night unfolded slowly. There was no public announcement, there was no statement to the press. The royal family managed the situation the way royal families have always managed uncomfortable truths, quietly, carefully, with as little visibility as possible. Sheikha eventually left. Hamdan did not stop her. The marriage that had been built on alliance and obligation and the strategic vision of a powerful father dissolved not with a declaration but with a departure. One person walking away, the other standing still, and the vast ornate rooms of a Dubai palace holding the silence of something that had officially come to an end. What came next for Hamdan was the one chapter of his life that felt, for a brief time, like it had been written by him instead of for him. He went back to the woman he had always loved. He married her privately, without ceremony or announcement. She became his wife in the sense that matters outside of politics and alliance and family strategy. She became the mother of his children. And the poems he wrote during that period shifted in tone. They were still melancholy, still layered with the kind of depth that comes from a person who has seen too much and felt too much. But underneath the melancholy, there was something else. Something that had not been present before. A kind of peace that had been a long time coming. But even that peace did not last. The pressures of royal life, the political shifts following the passing of Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed, and the expectations his father placed on his future eventually reached even into that private chapter. The woman he loved had to step back. The children went with her. And Hamdan returned to the public version of himself, composed, dignified, performing the role of the crown prince with the same grace he has always brought to everything the world asks of him. The night his marriage fell apart forever did not end with that one night. It echoed forward into every poem he wrote after, into every early departure from Dubai, into every photograph where his eyes hold something the caption does not explain. That night changed the direction of his life in ways that are still unfolding. And the woman who walked away from it, Sheikha, dignified and quiet and deserving of far more than she received, carries her own version of that night, a version nobody has ever asked her to share. Subscribe to this channel and hit the bell to keep following the real story of Sheikh Hamdan. Every week I bring you the truth behind the image, and the truth always goes deeper than the headlines.